Hello and welcome to Gin with Gwynne. I'm Oliver Gwynne. This is where I give you my off-the-cuff and unrehearsed thoughts on marketing, data, and philosophy. This week I'm talking about 8 different conversion methods, taking strangers and making them into your customers, and I'm going to give you the pros and the cons. Number 1, free content / self-serve education. Now, I do feel like there is a big, massive gap between content and self-serve education, in that content is just, here's typically something useful information about the company, here's what we're doing, and we put it out on a regular basis, whereas self-serve is aiming towards sales specifically, and you think of it as like top of funnel, how do I get people interested, and you work your way down to what are the answers that people need to their various questions, and you go all the way down. The pros, it scales infinitely. One piece of content can work for you 24/7, 365 days a year. It builds trust and SEO simultaneously. It reduces time to decision for informed buyers if you're doing it correctly. But there are cons to this. So it takes months to compound content marketing. It takes years to compound in some cases, because you have to put out things on a regular basis. You have to warm up your audience. And often you have, as a company, multiple subjects that you're trying to talk about at any one time, and so it can take a long time to build out your SEO in a particular field. The weaker relationship that you form from content marketing is easier to churn, in the sense that a lot of people are just interested in the content. They're not necessarily interested in buying your services related to the content. And it often has a lower conversion rate than direct sales, by which I mean that the point of a self-serve funnel is that it works without you, or it's designed to work without you. But often you need to get people on a call, build a relationship, show that you know the thing that you're supposed to know, and then it's much more likely, even if somebody doesn't buy from you the first time, that they will come back years later. And so it does a job, because a lot of people don't want to get on the call, which we all understand. Time is limited. You can waste a lot of time talking to various people. And it's a push and pull, because you want to get people on a call, you want to make it interesting. I think people are more willing to give things away than ever before. But also it can potentially hurt you in a way, because direct sales and talking to people will have a bigger impact, and people will remember that. And of course, in a world where AI can make any piece of content almost instantly, we have to rethink our content strategy. Fun fact from HubSpot from 2023, and I wonder how relevant this will be in the future: companies with blogs generate 67% more leads per month than those without. Number 2, the other side of this coin, sales calls, discovery meeting. The pros are pretty obvious. So much higher close rate than sort of self-serve. You can handle objections in real time. Customers who spoke to somebody will retain better. But cons are, it doesn't scale. It's capped by head count. There's only so many hours in the day. Normally you have to prepare for the call. You never know what somebody's going to ask you on a call some of the times. And so sometimes you need multiple people on a call, depending on the size and scale of the organization. If you have a longer sales cycle, then that is a higher cost per acquisition, because you have to spend more time and more meetings on that. It depends heavily on the individual salesperson, and not even the salesperson themselves. Sometimes, you hit it off with somebody, sometimes you don't. You don't have that vibe with somebody. It's a little bit like dating in that sense, I guess. And it's kind of out of your control. You never know how true somebody's being with you on the call. Sales call conversion rates average about 15 to 20% versus 1 to 3% of cold email alone, according to Gartner in 2022. Number 3, lower price or introductory offer. So you're trying to reduce the friction of that first purchase. Now, we know as a fact that if somebody buys one thing in a shop, a small thing, they are a lot more likely statistically to buy a second thing. It's just proven. Everybody knows this. How often have you done that in a shop, where you go in to buy a specific thing, and because you've already made that decision of, oh, I'm going to buy this, then you look for other things that you might as well buy while you're there. The pros of this are, it broadens your addressable audience almost immediately, because there's more people who can afford to buy from you. It reduces the decision risk of new customers, because especially if you're a new entity, there's a lot of risk there. Are they going to be good? What they're talking about, all of this kind of thing. It generates reviews, referrals, more social proof, because you're getting more people through the door at a lower price point. The cons are kind of obvious. It potentially attracts more price-sensitive customers with lower lifetime value, which means they're more likely to churn in the future. It's hard to raise your prices without losing those customers in the future because you've acquired them at a lower rate that they're used to a certain level of service. And don't we know that the people who pay less still want the great service that the people who pay more want? And it can potentially devalue your brand positioning depending on what field you're in. Price acquired customers churn 3 to 5 times faster than value acquired ones, according to ProfitWell/Paddle in 2021. Number 4, free trial or freemium. Let the product do the selling. Pros: it removes commitment barrier completely. There's no cost at all. Customers who self-activate tend to stay longer in general. That's a general rule of thumb. I'm not sure it's always true. And it generates usage data that you can sell against. So I always say to my clients who have freemium, like, the point of freemium is not to look good on an investor dashboard of like, wow, we have 20 million people, but none of them are paying. You can have a pub that's full of nobody paying. Doesn't mean it's going to stay in business. The point is that you generate this data and you use them for experimentation, and then you can perfect what the offering is that people will pay for, and you figure that out through the data. And if you're not taking that approach and mindset, then you're doing things wrong. Cons: most free users never convert. The median is like 4%. It's expensive to support non-paying users at scale. Pardon me. It works poorly if product value isn't obvious fast. And the other problem it creates is like, where do you put the paywall? That's a huge debate, and most companies kind of get that wrong, and they do it in a not data-driven way. And so, yeah, it can have the opposite effect where you can potentially burn people for a longer time when they probably would have paid if you had put a paywall in a different place. The average freemium to paid conversion is 2 to 5%. Slack and Dropbox sit closer to 25%. Unusually strong product-led JTM, according to OpenView in 2023. Number 5, don't know why I almost put up 2 hands there. Social proof case studies. It's a passive technique that you can use. It converts while you sleep. It reduces perceived risk for fence sitters, people on the fence. Oh, look how many good reviews they've got. Peer validation outperforms brand messaging all the time because you can promise anything in the world, but if there's loads of people who say that you're great, then it counteracts that. Cons: it takes a lot of time to accumulate meaningful volume. I'm sure we've all seen on Facebook these unknown brands and all the comments underneath are like, wow, this is really great, this is fantastic. If you scroll through all of the comments, you realize that a lot of them are duplicated and it's actually bots. Well, the con is like, one bad review can undo dozens of good reviews, which is really risky, and people are much more likely to leave a bad review than a good one. Generic testimonials are largely ignored. People are typically looking for specific things or specific feedback about specific features. They don't just want, this is a great product. 92% of customers read online reviews before buying. 88% trust them as much as personal recommendations, according to BrightLocal as of 2023. Number 6, email nurture sequences. Now, I was talking recently about how email is going to suffer because we're all going to have AI automated boxes. Personalization is easier through email than ever before, but it's still something that works. People do still read their emails. So the pros is it has the highest ROI of any owned marketing channel. It's true, but it's not true. It's true because it costs basically nothing to write a load of emails, put them in a sequence. It costs the price of software, and even these days you can automate that. I've automated mine recently. Other pros: it educates and qualifies simultaneously, because only through usage data there is it qualifying people. But if they take an action to take a call, then that's obviously a good qualification. If they read a lot of emails, then maybe they're more interested, but that's not often the case. But certainly if you have certain emails addressing certain pain points and you see a trend pattern, then those are the things that you can then optimize at the top of the funnel through paid advertising. Fully automatable once built. Cons: long lag between sign up and conversion, because it often takes weeks, months, years for people to convey. There's a list decay, so cold lists degrade pretty fast, I would say. People opt out over time, or they forget why they signed up. Very easy to ignore in a world where all of our inboxes are crowded. Email averages £36 to £42 in return per £1 spent, according to the Litmus State of Email Report 2023. Number 7, urgency scarcity. So limited time offers, limited seats, deadlines. Pros: reliably moves fences to act now, accelerates pipeline velocity, works across channels, emails, landing page, ads. Cons: fake urgency can destroy your trust when called out. Haven't we all had 6 emails that say there's only 4 places left, and you're like, oh wow, if there was only 4 places left and they're going fast, then you probably couldn't send me 6 emails because it would have gone. You never get an email that says it's gone. Very rarely. Maybe that's an underused technique. It trains customers to wait for deals because they know that urgency is potentially coming, a discount is potentially coming. So some people will put stuff in their cart and then wait for it to be reduced. And it can attract low intent buyers who regret the purchase because they only did it sort of on a whim. Countdown timers can increase conversion by up to 9% on e-commerce product pages, according to Optimizely meta-analysis 2022. And last but not least, number 8, referral word of mouth program, similar to case studies, I guess, but turning your existing customers into your sales channel. Referred customers have 16 to 25% higher LTV. Trust is pre-built from their friends, their family, on the street. Warm lead from day one. It lowers CAC more than almost any paid channel. Cons: it only works if the existing customers are genuinely happy. I'm not sure. I mean, we've all had cases where people have referred to something because they get 100 quid or something, and I don't think that really translates. The thing that does work is when you genuinely love something and then you tell somebody else about it. Like for me, the things I often recommend are like forehead, that stick that you put on when you've got a migraine, works every time for me. I would be a spokesperson for their company. I love it so much. But if they were to pay me £1 per time I told somebody and sent a link, I'm not sure it would be worth the effort, basically. Hard to scale predictably. You need a mechanism in place. You need to track it, all of this kind of stuff. And depending on what you're selling, it's not always the case that you're going to be going around talking about car finance or whatever it might be. And incentive programs can feel transactional and backfire. As I say, if your friend is just doing it for the 100 quid that they get. Referred customers are 4 times more likely to refer others. Wharton School of Business / Nielsen 2022. So all of the techniques that you can do to convert more customers have some sort of trade-off, and it's up to you figuring out the reach versus relationship, high volume and low touch tactics, or high touch tactics and low volumes. Depends on the industry that you're in, depends on the urgency of what you're buying. We all like to think that something is more pressing than it really is. And it also depends on if you can service those acquired customers and grow them, basically. The stat to lean on in this article, I think, is the one that price acquired customers churn 3 to 5 times faster, because it's counterintuitive to a lot of small business owners. Discounting to grow is not a strategy that works in the long time. It is, however, a different kettle of fish to have a lower price entry offer and then you upsell a full product. I think that's different from a discounting things. And so these are some pros and cons of different conversion techniques. How do you figure out which ones are going to work? Got to have your testing in place. You got to make sure that you have some cohort of your customers that are statistically significant. That's difficult to say. And you have to A/B test everything with data, make sure that you get the impact, and bear in mind that, hey, you discounted something for 2 weeks, it might not work. If you discount something on a regular basis at a certain time, you want to find out what the pattern is to make sure that it's effective without hurting your LTV. LTV is the thing that I center all of my analytics for growth around, and it applies to nearly every business. Thank you very much for watching. Tune in next week for another Gin with Gwynne.